the regime change.
Okay, folks, this is the Copenhagen Street Space television station from Copenhagen. Right now, you can guess that this is the topic of Syria. This is the Russian ambassador explaining why that they vetoed the West's resolution to do something about getting regime change in Syria. The West is, in my opinion, completely off track here, and the Russians have the better argument. But listen for yourself, don't trust me.
That a couple members of this council continue to prevent us from fulfilling our sole purpose here.
She's acting like a moral authority, and she has no moral authority in her representation whatsoever.
In the meantime, Russian Foreign Minister
is
heading to Damascus on Tuesday to meet with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Russia has been very vocal in trying to get both sides participating in the conflict in Syria to come to the table and start speaking to one another.
Maybe we can get a better picture here. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to say some things about Russia Today and about the quality of their reporting. Which hopefully will motivate you to go to Russia Today, because I think it's great and I think they deserve a recommendation. So you're getting it here, anyway, from my point of view.
Opposition groups say between 60 and 250 people were killed by security forces in the Syrian city of Homs just ahead of the UN Council vote. But the government denied the assault, dismissing the report as a, quote, hysterical campaign of incitement by armed groups. Editor of the Syria Tribune, Dr. Ali Mohammed, says the timing of the massacre claims is significant.
Let's see if we get a better picture. Okay, is that better?
And then just the night before the UN Security Council meeting, it decided to start bombarding Homs. The situation in Homs has been difficult for the Syrian regime supporters for such a long time, and I don't see why the army would choose such a critical timing to start its vicious crackdown as described. They are only claims, and just 2 weeks ago we had the Arab League observers who could have gone there and investigated. But,
yeah, I don't know why half of the Arab countries withdrew. Maybe because they didn't like the results that some of the observers were discovering. It wasn't in their interest or what they wanted to hear, so they just withdrew.
In Jisr Shuhur, in Dara, and the opposition was not able to prove any of these claims over the past 10 months.
Egyptian police have again fired rubber bullets and tear gas to drive a crowd of rock.
Okay, you can hear they have a good coverage of everything that's going on in the Middle East and the world, for that matter.
Forces and demonstrators in Egypt have been raging for 4 days now and left a dozen dead and thousands injured. Activists have been venting their anger over the military ruler's alleged failure to prevent a deadly outbreak of violence at a football match Wednesday. RT's Maria Finoshina has more from Cairo.
Things have been extremely devastating.
So why didn't the military go in and stop these killings or these tramplings of some of the football players? Huh? Why didn't the military go in and do something about it? That's the big question. Well, I hope that all of this, if anything good is to come out of this, then it'll be contributing to the downfall of the military Mubarak regime that's now left after Mubarak has been removed. The regime is still there. Let's get the regime out. But the people must do it, not foreign interventors, not agents from the United States and Israel and England and France. That's what they're trying to do in Syria, in my opinion. And it's absolutely unacceptable. It was a mistake what happened with the so-called no-fly zone in Libya. We don't want to see that repeated in Syria. I don't, anyway. No way.
Have never stopped. Shortly after this happened on Wednesday, hardcore football fans have come to the building of the Interior Ministry here in the central Cairo, just blocks away from here, seeking for justice and calling for the immediate transition of power from the military to civil institutions and for early presidential elections. And since then...
Sounds like they're shooting in the background, or a train is bumbling.
500 others have been injured. We've been there. It's a terrible disaster, I have to say. I hope you can see the pictures right now. As you can imagine...
Looks like the military, the police are just standing there, and what's going on?
Towards the building of the Interior Ministry here in Cairo.
Okay, they're protecting the so-called
anti-military slogans. From time to time, police has been firing tear gas at protesters and even bird shots. We've been able to speak to several people there. Let's now listen to what they have to say about what's going on and when it's going to stop.
People are just protesting and they're shooting them. The casters of tear gas are unbelievable effects. People might die of that. They suffocate.
The people just don't want this.
Today a child got hit by the car.
May they have peace. Soon.
Seven-year-old child. It's over. It's more than enough. What they're doing to the protesters and what they're doing to the country. It's over. It must be over.
Well, as you can see, the situation is very volatile here in Cairo and actually in several other cities throughout Egypt. But we can talk now about several achievements as well, following court saying...
They're really getting serious down there about wanting to get rid of this military junta. And what is more reasonable than wanting a civilian government as quickly as possible? They don't want a military dictatorship. Who the hell would? Nobody in their right mind would want something like that.
Forces Advisory has also called for early presidential elections in the country.
Stay with us here on Arky. Still ahead this hour, the ever-tightening knot of sanctions against Iran. As the U.S. considers more punitive measures, we ask what response to expect from the defiant Islamic Republic. And as the nation's bailout hangs in the balance, Greece struggles to...
Okay, their coverage of Greece is quite good.
But first, Saturday was a day for demonstrations across Russia. More than 200,000 people gathered in the country to voice their political views ahead of next month's presidential vote.
And in Russia, I think it's honorable that they are covering the opposition demonstration protesters. Good. And Putin has declared that, defended them, saying they're a legitimate opposition, let them come forth. Why not?
Funding the Russian opposition to minimize the country's influence on the world stage during a critical time.
It's documentable from the records of the National Endowment for Democracy, which is a Washington government-financed NGO that's all over the place in Russia. They're financing activists in several different cities in Russia. I think really their expectation is to create as much internal unrest in Russia as possible to distract the prospective new Putin presidency at a time when Russia...
I think that Putin's greatest asset in favor of the people of Russia is that he is a bulwark against corporate fascism. That's why I think it's important. The billionaire who's trying to get established as a candidate opposing Putin, I don't remember his name, but he's a billionaire, and I think he unfortunately represents corporate fascism or corporate dictatorship. And no good will come out of that if he ever gets power for the Russian people. Rather Putin than him and the corporations. We don't want it looking like the United States where corporate power has taken over everything.
Influence the political climate in the country.
It's mostly just emotions fueled by the media. Some people were obviously irritated seeing the same two faces on television, maybe too much in the last few months especially. Some people were terrified when they saw their position and its slogans, and when they felt the hand of the West behind it. So it's mostly media-driven. There is no real class struggle behind it. There are poor people and rich people in both rallies. There are people of all kinds of ethnic groups in both rallies. So right now I think it's having mostly a positive effect, because it sort of wakes up the government to the needs of the people. So until now the consequences were mostly positive. I hope it will continue in that way. If there is a real split in society, of course it's not going to be good for the country.
There's more about Moscow's rival rallies online as thousands gathered for the day of protests, and our T-Photog caught the highlights on camera.
Please go to Russia Today yourself. Don't be satisfied with this. Just check it out, and you can also go into the section on the front page. You can find you can see where the programs are, and in the programs you'll find archives with a hell of a lot of programs. Yeah, right there. You can see the programs. Go in there and just check it out. You'll find it when you get in there. Right now it's kind of fast and confusing. And I don't know what you think, but I'm convinced that Iran is not and has no atomic weapons program. They are not developing atomic weapons. They would be insane to do so, and they're not insane. They're extremely intelligent, calm people.
Purposes, and seeking to prove that by cooperating more closely with the UN nuclear watchdog. Let's discuss more on these developments from around Iran with Kamel Al-Wazni, political analyst, joining us live from Beirut. So previous sets of sanctions against Iran have failed so far to produce the desired result, even with some of them threatening to backfire, and yet the U.S. is considering more. What do you think they hope to achieve?
I think there's some measurement within the American election, especially.
They have a lot of reporters around the world. This guy's in Beirut, but reporters and professors and politicians, journalists, very competent people. They interview, that comment on Russia Today. Maybe this is mostly incarnated in the program called Crosstalk with Peter Lavelle. Check that out in the programs. He's broadcasting every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, about 3 or 4 times a day, the first day that they're out, and then it's just a little bit, half of the day afterwards, they also are shown a couple of times. And after that, you have to go on to the programs in the archives. But that's very easy, very good. Check it out. If you want an objective, well, there's no such thing as pure objectivity, but objective reporting is, in my opinion, least of all in Fox News and even CNN, and to a lesser extent in the BBC. The BBC is not, in my opinion, objective enough. Absolutely not. But the three best television stations in the world that you can see on the internet are Russia Today, Press TV, and Democracy Now! From the United States with Amy Goodman. Those three are the best. But this is Russia Today that I want to talk about and show you, so we're checking it out right here.
Not do it ever. So between the military escalation and the economic sanction, the region stand in very difficult terms.
Now let's turn to Iran's nuclear program. This week's mission bomb.
What does he think about the nuclear program? Come on, let's hear it.
In 3 weeks will produce any breakthroughs.
I think all the inspection by the nuclear agency hasn't found that Iran is actually weaponizing their system. They feel that they're...
I believe that. I think he's telling... That's convincing to me.
Following the nuclear treaty agreement, and there is no violation to that end. But
there is absolutely no evidence anywhere that Iran is developing nuclear weapons. Actually, I think the United States, Israel, I think they know this, but they don't give a damn, because the idea, the whole purpose is something entirely different.
Iran said very clearly where they're willing to cooperate with the international community.
They want to remove the regime in Iran. And they will do it with external forces if they get their way. So we must stop this. We must help Iran prevent Iran being invaded by Western countries, by anybody. Iran itself hasn't invaded any country for more than 200 years. They are a peace-loving nation. Historically, it's a fact.
Heading into a major confrontation in the Persian Gulf.
Why do you think Western states rush in with punishing measures before hearing what the IAEA report has?
Yeah, before. Why?
This agency is seen to be irrelevant at this point because no matter what they're saying, the sanctions are coming at Iran because the suspicion are there, and no matter what the Iranians are justifying or opening their facility, there is some judgment already been rendered against Iran. And I think the Senate in the United States, they took very aggressive sanction in terms of...
What's going on to me is actually leading up to war crimes, in the sense that there is no justification for this war. There are no facts that justify attacking Iran. And without those, to me, if anything comes of it, they will be war crimes.
The institution becoming irrelevant, whether the UN, whether the nuclear agency. It's what we see now is we see monopoly over the international law by the United States. The United States go and use these institutions to serve its interests without actually noticing the implication for the world economy. The United States is being a spoiler for the world order. And somebody has to stop this madness. And
Goldman Sachs is backing Romney up to the hilt. And that is an indication, in my opinion, of staying away from him as far as possible.
Well, in 4 years ago, that has a high Mormon population that we would expect him to win. He's looking at Michigan this month, which is a state that his father was governor of. And he's got the organization to do well in some of these caucus states. Ron Paul obviously will target the caucus states and try to do well in those. But, you know.
As you can see in the lower right-hand corner, this guy who's talking now is from Washington, D.C.
Try to predict this. But Mitt certainly has a lot of momentum heading into these February contests.
Katrina, for your political taste, is Romney conservative enough for you?
No, absolutely not. I don't even consider Romney a conservative. I consider him a moderate/liberal who is running as a conservative, which many Tea Party people have experienced in 2010. And here's the problem that Romney's going to face, is he's never even grasped any of the grassroots movement out there. He has shunned that movement. The Republican Party in some areas have shunned that movement. And unfortunately for him, that's the movement.
Anyway, I think we got enough of this. Let's go over and check out Max Keiser. You can go in yourself and see the rest of this if you want, or check out when they're not in the archives, but when they're coming on in real time. Let's find Max Keiser thing in here. Here he is. Here's Max. Let me. Max Keiser. Here he goes. Come on, Max and Stacy Herbert.
Hi, Max Keiser. This is the Keiser Report. Ooh, I've got the vapors. Stacy?
Max, the vaporized and the deleted. It's the American soap opera. Money from MF Global feared gone. Nearly 3 months after...
They have humor, it's a good entertainment, and there's substance, absolute substance to what they're talking about. Maybe I should shut up a little bit so you can hear just a little bit what's going on.
The findings so far suggest that a significant amount of the money could have been vaporized.
Yeah, it's vaporized. The 1.2 billion may have been vaporized. Now, the same people say that they can search through a stack of 1 billion tweets and find one with some offending text that would necessitate the detention of British people in a U.S. airport, the same people who can track a razor that was sold at Walmart 10 years ago in a landfill, emitting some kind of RFID tag that would account for some inventory adjustment as part of an accounting fraud at Walmart, as part of the overall accounting fraud that is the U.S. economy, that is the overall accounting fraud that is Wall Street, that is the accounting fraud that is the Constitution, are saying that, oh, 1.2 billion, we can't find it. I thought it was in my sock. The only one who can get away successfully with that kind of defense are pimps in Harlem. Oh, that's right, you are a pimp in frickin' Harlem!
Okay. I sometimes wonder why nobody can sue him for libel speech. But because it's on a different international TV station, maybe the United States might have some difficulty in that. But anyway, I don't know. Then on the other hand, this is also a comedy as well as serious substance reporting, so the comedy section of it would probably, in legal courts, exonerate them. Who knows? Anyway, the United States has been, I don't know if it still is, a country that has accepted a lot of free speech. Maybe they would accept.
Now, Jesse's Cafe American looks at this MF Global vaporized story and sees essentially a cover-up using as well the media. The media is complicit in this and allowing J.P. Morgan. We know that the money has been found in J.P. Morgan's account.
Jump a little bit in this so you can just see where what's happening a little further down the line here.
Global dollar for MF Global customers. So that would be interesting to actually see these vulture funds. You know, we're used to them shaking down African nations, whether or not they could get away with shaking down the third world dictator like Jamie Dimon.
Right, the economic hitmen and the vulture funds that operate in the third world, Latin America.
Delete any data you want now. Now, there's some controversy on whether they'll allow customers to actually retrieve their data. But the fact is, Joe Bag of Donuts, who has his own data uploaded to Mega Upload, he's deleted.
Well, that's a pattern of destruction of private property. America, supposedly, the capitalist system is built on private property, not the communal property of the defunct political systems of bygone days of communalism. No, we have private property. That's what makes the country so great. Oh, except when we lost that $1 billion for Jamie's bonus, then we had to steal it from you because, the Mega Upload data, we had to steal that too. Because private property is just an idea, but we don't respect it here in this country. You know, Hayek wrote that.
This funny's making of criminal transactions in the finance world, to me, is, I believe it. I believe that the banking system is a bankster system. It is a corrupt system of the most horrible kind, and it actually does kill people.
Thinking, assassinations and wealth confiscation, destruction of private property. Thank you, Obama. You're a swell guy.
And the chief and staff of all of this corrupt stuff is the chief, the top man in the firm. And who is that? That's Obama.
Obama tells women, interesting, unemployed husband can't find job. So here's a woman in Texas, and her husband is an engineer, and she's asking why he can't find a job.
Jennifer, can I ask you what kind of engineer your husband is?
He's a semiconductor engineer.
It is interesting to me, and I meant what I said. If you send me your husband's resume, I'd be interested in finding out exactly what's happening right there, because the word we're getting is that somebody in that kind of high-tech field, that kind of engineer, should be able to find something right away.
Yeah, there are jobs available, as Obama described them, but they're in China and India. And one of the other great travesties of this age of globalization.
How do you get the jobs back to your country?
Jobs in India and China that were sent to those countries, they're not really allowed to go to those countries.
He is, in others programs, he's gotten into this. How do you create real jobs? You do that by producing real stuff that is necessary.
can't get a job. You can't go to China and India to get a job. The wealthy can move their money to China and India. My money moves around the world a lot easier than I can, believe me. When I go to cross the border, they stick something up my schming and saying, oh, are you really a friend of Jamie's? Because if you're not, we're going to camouflage you up your schming. Only the friends of Jamie are allowed in this country.
Well, Obama promised that if she sent him her husband's resume, he would go looking for a job for her. But he's going to have to go to China, of course, because despite Obama's hangout hope, U.S. semiconductor jobs are still going away. So the National Science Foundation reports that domestic high-tech manufacturing jobs have declined by 28% since 2000. Some 687,000 jobs. Even R&D, research and development, is increasingly being performed overseas by large multinationals, notes the report. So yes, if you could build something for the web, it may be easy to score a job at Facebook or Google or as an app developer. But for Americans like this woman's husband, a semiconductor engineer, your chances of finding a job are pretty slim.
Well, what you should do is take a ball-peen hammer or a large phone book and slap himself on the head really hard until he's semi-unconscious. Then go on Facebook and get on a game like Farmville or Factoryville or Planetville or Americaville and pretend to be working virtually in a real, make sure you're not really conscious because you don't want the reality of this to set in. And at the end of a day or two, you've accumulated enough Facebook credits to buy yourself a cup of coffee. And then, go stimulate your brain with caffeine and say, look, honey, I'm working in a factory. Don't tell her it's a virtual factory and you're working, 17, 18 hours a day for $1, and that might upset her.
Yeah, she might get divorced.
Deleted, but, matter and energy are neither created nor destroyed. The jobs, it appears, are all sound, healthy, and well, and have been found. China's factories in strong start to 2012. The Chinese manufacturing sector has made a surprisingly strong start to the year, with domestic orders cushioning the impact of Europe's debt woes, according to an official survey. The Purchasing Managers Index, an important gauge of factory growth, rose to 50.5 in January from 50.3 a month earlier. Anything above 50 means manufacturing is growing.
How many Chinese does it take to screw in a light bulb? 1 million, but they still have a better job than 1 million Americans.
Well, as they say, even though Europe is collapsing and their imports from China are slowing, domestic consumption in China, which now have all these great jobs, it's growing.
Yeah, plus China doesn't want to see the dollar do very well either. They'd rather have the euro survive, so that's another part of the currency wars.
Well, as the China Money Report says, and I know you're interviewing Daniel Collins in the second half,
go in and see this guy that he's interviewing.
Money boomerangs back to the developed world to buy up companies. So, the big news this week was that Sany, a Chinese company, is buying Putzmeister, a German concrete pump maker, one of those legendary Mittelstand companies in Germany, the backbone of German industrial strength. Well, Daniel Collins says, for decades, Asia has performed the role of the diligent worker bee. Without a history of Adam Smith and free trade, they saw how easy it was to game the free trade system. To this day, Koreans do not buy Japanese goods, and Japanese do not buy Korean goods. Neither one will buy U.S. goods. The stuff that they do want, like Hollywood movies, they just take. The U.S. took the brunt of the free trade economic carnage, as over 50,000 factories have closed down in only the last 10 years in America. No one can label arbitrage and transfer price their taxes away like corporate America. We are still number one in that game.
Right, sharecroppers. Remember, Warren Buffett said a few years ago that America would become a nation of sharecroppers. Look it up. Do the search. It's exactly what he said.
And he also went to Germany hoping to buy some of these Mittelstand companies. He was there, remember, for a few years looking to buy anything. Now it turns out that the Chinese are actually buying up those companies.
Okay, you guys want the full rundown on this. Go in and watch Russia Today and Max Keiser. Okay, have a great day, guys. Bye-bye. He's leaving too. For the first half, though, he'll be back after this 15-minute thing. He'll be back with this special guest. There's a special guest every day. Bye-bye.